Hi, welcome back to Channel 6 TV. This is Kenny Fogle, Community Focus here in Nelson County, and I'll tell you something I always enjoy, and I hope you do too, is being a part of history. And well, actually, we're being a part of history today. So we've got I guess you've broken history. We've got Keisha Copeland here today, the councilwoman for the Bardstown Chamber of Commerce. And I guess, as far as I know, you're the first black female ever to serve on the Bardstown Chamber of Commerce. So
that is true.
We have made history.
We have.
And well, before we get into it, we're going to talk a little bit about Black History Month in just a second. But let's talk about those. So you've been on just a little over a year now on the chamber, on the city council. Mm-hmm. What's it like?
It's mind-boggling. It's very different than what I probably envisioned, but the experience is enormous and great. Knowing that you have a community that has elected you to do a job and that you have to take it very seriously and listen to what your constituents have to say. And sometimes it's not the most favorable outcome. But when you're fighting for your constituents because you know that it's something that they want, it's an overwhelming, awesome feeling. When
you're running for office, obviously you had some ideas about what you want to do to come in and make changes. And when you get on a council, you find out it's not as easy as that.
No.
But again, do you have a goal of what you would like to see Keisha Copeland do, or a goal that you'd like to see the city of Bardstown do?
The ultimate goal would be have something for the children here. We are an awesome tourist town. However, when I was sitting at Mammy's Kitchen, a couple was there and they were like, there's so much for us to do, but there's nothing for our kids to do. And that was disappointing, you know, to hear that we're this awesome town, beautiful town, and we don't have anything for the kids to do. Well, when you think about that, that means there's nothing for our kids here to do. So we're residents first, and then we're a tourist. And so it's important to take care of the people that live here and keep that focus. So I've talked to several people in the community who are on the same page and same level that want something for the kids, whether it's updating the recreation center, having a new sports complex. There's been a lot of talk about a YMCA, but the study did show that it's favorable for us to have one. However, the community is not on the same page right now. So a sports complex would kind of open that up to everyone, you know, and we could update things, you know, having a swimming area for the kids, golf, softball, baseball is simulated inside a facility, walking trail, swimming for the senior citizens. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but however, with opportunity, there's always money. And that's the main thing right now, just trying to see where you're going to get the money from. And it's not always as easy as people would think. You know, it's easy to say it, but to enact it is another thing.
Exactly. Well, as an elected official, obviously, with things you say and things you do are scrutinized a whole lot more, and you carry a whole lot more weight, just like in this Flint water challenge. I know you're heading up with a couple other people, but that's one of the things that the fact that you're involved gets it more weight, gets it more credibility, gives it more publicity. And I know you've got a fundraisers coming up. You've got things you're working on that you're involved with.
Yes, we have a benefit for the Flint Water Challenge, and it will be on Saturday, this Saturday, at 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning. And the cover charge is $6. So you pay $6, or if you want to donate more, you donate more. But that's the only fundraiser that we're having.
Okay. And like I said, you know, the fact is being on the city council, you work with several of the councilmen, you work with so there's a lot of issues you have to face every day. Now, how do you stay on top of these? I mean, obviously, if you're reading the newspaper or watching television, you see there's a lot of stuff going on in the city of Bardstown now, whether it's the fire department, whether it's occupational tax. I mean, is this something that you try to stay involved in every single issue, or you have just two or three that you really like to hammer on? And
well, it's our job to be educated about every issue that comes before us. However, I wouldn't be honest if, you know, there's one that you care about, you know, it just gravitates towards you more. For example, when, you know, we had Barton's in Heaven Hill, that was something dear to me. My grandfather worked for Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
And then I had many people that have these lifelong jobs. So a bourbon distillery that leaves a bourbon capital of the world, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, I received calls as early as 5:45 a.m. in the morning. I answered my calls or my text messages or
You're better than me.
or the emails. Well, that's what we represent. We represent the people.
Yeah.
And we are accountable to the people. And so we have to be there, and I felt that it was necessary. If they're calling me at that time of the morning,
It must be important.
it must be important. And it was. So, of course, it was important to them. It's important to me.
Yeah.
And, you chose a side, and I chose that they need to remain here.
Yeah.
And so they're here, and I'm happy, and the community's happy.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep going.
Well, like I said, you're a part of history. I mean, there's no question about it. When the history books are written, you'll be right there. But and again, that's what we want to talk a little bit about. February is Black History Month, and that's something that we like to celebrate. It should be History Month all the time, but Black history is, be honest with you, for most people when they were taught in school, they didn't get,
Right.
they only got one version. And there's a lot of went on in the black history world that basically it was not reported or was just sort of pushed off to the side. Can you tell us a little bit about what does that mean to you when I say Black History Month or Black history in general?
Well, Black History Month to me is celebrated almost every day. We have it in February, which sometimes is a short month. So, but it is celebrated every day, and there are functions every week that throughout the state they're having. Martin Luther King's birthday was in January.
Right.
But it's kind of like the kickoff, and so in February, you're just full speed ahead. We had Black History Month in Frankfurt, and it was phenomenal. We celebrated the late Senator Georgia Powers and Ben Show from Louisville, and I mean, it was just really, really great. And you see your counterparts up there, and you're just celebrating history. Some of it's things that you've never heard of. And I'm 45, and I'm still learning. And hopefully someday the education system will embrace all histories, whether it is African American, Native, Asian, what have you. They will embrace all of history and make sure that the kids are taught what history is, what America really was. History, our history, the Black history, is not a pretty history. It's full of layers, and some of it's grueling. Not until I got into college did I understand the gravity of seeing chains and the cuffs that were on the slaves' feet and hands. And when you put that on your hand, I couldn't hold it.
Yeah.
So how did a kid, how did they survive? Because in our culture and our society today, we have become somewhat, things have been easy for us. Could we have survived that? Could we survive being in a cotton field? Could we survive the lynchings and the beatings and KKK coming after us? Could we survive that today? And how would it be today? We see that, if someone is killed today, the first thing we see on TV is the burning of buildings and things of that nature. But I hope that kids will just be taught about all of it, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Well, and that brings me children today. I mean, and we're talking about children, black, white, doesn't make any difference. Is I think we forget a lot of our history, and because we're getting so comfortable, we're thinking, what's the big deal? What happened 100 years ago, that doesn't affect me today, and we're losing that because people are not looking at their history and understanding the value of it, and I think that's something that we definitely have to. I don't know how we instill that in people.
I think actually it's going to come from home. You're going to have to educate kids at home. voting rights. You know, I remember when I was young, it wasn't that my parents told me I had to go vote, but I wanted to vote.
Yeah.
But now I have to tell my grandson, for instance, you have to vote because voting will determine what happens for future and for now. And it is your right. People died, and not just black people. White people died right alongside of them. You know, to ensure that we're able to vote. Women able to vote, you know. So it's the importance and knowing and educating, and we have to take responsibility too. We have to be responsible. So if the school system's not going to educate them, then we have to educate them.
Well, where are we at today? I mean, I know we've come a long, long way just in the last 40, 50 years, but we still got racism. I mean, it's still going on today. I don't think it's as blatant maybe now as it was. I mean, we don't have people going around wearing hoods like we used to, but maybe it is. I mean, maybe, do you see this differently than, say, I would see this? I mean, being, how do you see racism today in America and Nelson County and Bardstown?
I would say it's more open. When I was younger, it was kind of closed, you know, but now it's just full thrust open. So you know where you stand. But I'll give you a real quick story. I worked, my company had sent me from Louisiana to Tennessee, and it was called Macon County. And in that county, I ran a finance store. And I didn't know anything from Adam, you know. Growing up in Bardstown, everybody's friends with one another, you know. We live in the same neighborhoods and things of that nature. I rode through the town, my mom and I, and she was like, Keisha, I don't see anyone here. And I'm like, what do you mean anyone here? She said, I don't see any black people here, you know. And I'm like, well, they're probably working, you know. Well, fast forward, I would come to my store and there would be chocolate ice cream thrown at the windows. One of my employees said, what makes black people stink? Go to the bank and they wouldn't want to wait on me.
Really?
And I'm coming from the military.
Yeah.
That just didn't make sense to me. So a very good friend of mine, she was a white lady, took me out for lunch and said, I need you to go home another way. And I said, what are you talking about, go home another way? And she said, I need you to go home a certain way. I always took the back way. She said, they're going to burn some crosses for you. Well, I was hard-headed. And I said, well, there's just no way this is true.
Yeah.
Well, this was 2001, and yeah, it was true. And they burnt crosses for me.
Well, like I said, it's unbelievable, and like I said, I know you come from a different perspective. I mean, obviously, what your race is. I had a friend of mine I used to ride to work with, and we talked one day. He was black, and I said something about. I said, I think I understand how you feel. He looked at me and says, Kenny, you won't have a clue how I feel. I said, well, I understand you're black. He said, yeah, but I'm black 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right. He said, you don't understand. You don't have an inkling of how I feel, and you know that has stuck with me, and that's probably been 20 years ago. That very statement stuck with me. And even though I think you and I were different, but we're alike in so many ways, but I don't think either one of us can ever 100% understand how the other person feels. Right. Just for simply our culture. I don't know what it is.
And so you have to stop and think like, am I super sensitive? And you stop being sensitive.
Sometimes I think you have to be super sensitive because you see things, you've felt things, you've experienced things, and you wonder, what does somebody mean by that? Or why did they act the way they did?
Well, still today, you hear things like, you don't have to sit in the back of the truck. And I'm like, really?
Well, I listened to a guy in NPR just a few days ago, and he was talking about the O.J. Simpson case. And he says, you know, and I never heard it explained this way. He says, whether O.J. was innocent or whether O.J. was guilty. So that wasn't why he was excited. He said, I was excited because Johnny Cochran won a case. Johnny Cochran represented the black people, and Johnny Cochran beat the white system. And he said, and to me, to this day, I never heard anybody explain it quite like that. And a little light went on in my head. I said, I think I understand where you're coming from now.
There have been a lot of grateful things that have happened. We've come a long way. You know, to think that we would ever have a president that is black, that's a feat within itself.
A lot of people are never going to accept that, but then that's true. But it's just good or bad, you know. That's people are.
But we've seen how having a black president has turned the political world upside down. You know, you have a representative of Kentucky. And not just a representative, I mean, he's the majority. In Washington, D.C., Senator Mitch McConnell, who blatantly went on TV and said, you know, we're not going to work with him. We're just not going to work with him. Now we've had a judge die, and it's the same thing again, you know. And so it's disappointing that we took leaps forward, and now we've taken 1,000 steps back. And so it's really disappointing.
Well, I guess progress just takes a while, and you're making history. Like I said, right here in Nelson County, one step at a time. So maybe we just got a little while more to wait. I don't know. Just keep doing what you're doing, and maybe things will eventually just get better all the time. So Keisha, we can sit here and talk about this all day long. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
And again, Black History Month. February is Black History Month, and we hope that you do pay attention. There's ways to find out when go to your public library. There's all kinds of stuff going on that you can find out. And when this young man here gets to be a little older, we're not going to worry about all these things that's going on today because. Hi, everybody. That's exactly right. Well, Keisha, appreciate you being here today. Appreciate this young man joining us here today, and appreciate what you're doing on the Flint Water Challenge.
Thank you.
That makes a big difference as well. Stick around, a lot more to come here on Channel 6 TV. We'll be right back.